Kanaketpit and welcome to SUAANGAN. I'm your host, Dennis Allen. It's not every day the country's top politician drops into town for a bowl of caribou stew in Bannock. So when Prime Minister Paul Martin stopped in Tuck as part of his northern tour, well, folks rolled out the red carpet, but they didn't let him off easy. Martin stopped in Tuck as part of his 3-territory, 5-day, 8-community tour on August 13, 2004. There was an exciting time for Tuck because, as Mayor Jackie Jacobson explains, it had been a while since they had the pleasure of hosting the country's top political leader.
Last time the Prime Minister did come to Tuck was 30 years ago, and having another Prime Minister come back in is made pretty special.
Accompanying the Prime Minister was Western Arctic Member of Parliament Ethel Blondin Andrew. Tuck Elder Boogie Pokiak welcomed Martin and his wife Sheila to Tuck. He acted as tour guide and host. After a quick stop inside the terminal, Martin took time to greet the local dignitaries, many of whom were on hand to look for support from the Liberal government.
Eddie's with the IRC, the community corporation. Oh, and he's always been a big red guy.
I like that. Put it there.
A really big red.
That's good stuff. Thank you very much. Nice to know you. All right.
This was not Martin's first visit to Tuck, however. He'd worked briefly on a river tug on the Mackenzie River in the 1960s. Boogie Pokiak gave Martin a tour of Tuck, stopping in at the dock where Martin worked as a deckhand so many years ago. Residents took full advantage to send a message to the federal government. They wanted to make certain their concerns came before those of industries. Norma Vourdrach, however, feels that this is just a photo opportunity for the Liberal government.
Why do you think he came here?
I'd say just to make himself noticed so he could be elected the next time around.
Vourdrach is frustrated with trying to get government to listen to issues from a local level.
To me, what's the point of wanting them to address anything, because no matter what us little people say, nothing is done.
She thinks Martin is playing the age-old game of baby kissing, trying to score political points.
To me, it's just so that he could be noticed, to say that he came up north and told the people this and that, and nothing's going to happen.
But Mayor Jacobson has other plans for Martin. He intends to educate him on issues regarding Tuck.
There's a few, there's health care. It's always an issue with the Aboriginal groups. The pipeline, the all-weather road in between Tuck and Inuvik, and my shoreline erosion, that our shoreline's eroding, so yeah.
Regardless of his motive, Martin will have a first-hand view of some of the challenges facing Northerners. And just to close the deal, Martin braved the cool air and made it official by walking into the frigid waters of the Beaufort Sea. Could it be a sign of the uncharted waters to come? However, at last report, he hadn't caught a cold just yet. Even Minister Blondin Andrews shared the frigid moment with her colleague. Despite winning just a minority government and Blondin Andrews squeaking by with just 53 votes, Jacobson throws full support behind the Liberal government.
They're the ones in 1984 who signed our invalid final agreement. So I do have full support. Myself, I fully support them.
Vourdrach is not so sure addressing the issues again will amount to much without community involvement.
They've been addressed so many times and nothing happens. so there's really no point in doing anything.
Martin met with local people at a reception in his honor at Kitty Hall. The Tuktoyaktuk drummers and dancers were on hand to entertain and his wife Sheila. For some, it was a chance to get up close and personal with Canada's Prime Minister. The Martins were treated to local delicacies such as dried whitefish, caribou stew, and bannock. This little guy may very well represent Martin's attempt at sitting in the driver's seat of Canada's federal government. But not one to give in to challenges, Martin dives right into unknown waters and digs his paddles in deep. The survival of the Liberal government depends on voters, and even 53 of these people in this room could have made or broke his minority government. SUAANGAN will be right back with more of Prime Minister Paul Martin's visit to Tuk. And now back to SUAANGAN and more of Paul Martin's visit to Tuk.
Well, first of all, just on my behalf and on Sheila's behalf, I want to thank all of you. I want to thank you really for your tremendous hospitality. I want to thank you for being so welcoming. Boogie, I want to thank you for the tour and for the history lesson. I think that Sheila and I have had a wonderful time. If you can tell, I'm not nervous. I still haven't got my breath back. I've got to say to you, I just said to Sheila, I think I can make a better speech than I can dance, and she said, I'm not sure. But let me just tell you how all of this happened. Many years ago, worked on the tugs on the Mackenzie River. And so I used to come to Tuk. This was before many of you were born. And about 5-6 years ago, our oldest son worked in Tuk for a summer. And so we really wanted to come back and see where young Paul had been and where I had been so long ago. But what really happened was that during the election campaign, on the last day of the election, I started the election off in Nova Scotia and put my feet into the Atlantic Ocean and said that at the end of that day, I was going to put my feet in the Pacific Ocean. And I got a call from Ethel. And Ethel and I are very old friends. We were both elected at the same time. We worked very closely together. And Ethel said, let me tell you, you will not have completed your tour of Canada until you come up and put your feet in the ocean off of Tuk. And that's why...
Again, on behalf of the people of Tuk, we thank you for coming.
I'll look into it. This is the first I've heard about the harbor. The harbor's eroding away?
Yeah, right where you were, we're losing that whole point in the pretty much everything in the community has come up. Inside harbor, the houses on the shoreline. It's really overwhelming. It's really affecting
With the fate of the Liberal government now sitting in the hands of small-town Canada, Martin would do good to take them seriously, as Mervyn Grubin explains.
It was a good tour. I think something's going to come out of this one.
When Velma Illisiak of Aklavik wanted to change careers, she built on her past as a social worker and moved into education. Today, Velma is principal of Moose Kerr School in Aklavik.
The way the program is going to be just so that the grade 9s that are sitting here, you're going to be all sitting on this side. We start the program. When I do my part about explaining about the rite of passage, each of your names when I call you, you come and you'll stand up here. So we'll just do a little practice thing now. In 1993, decided to switch careers, moved over to the school, and I think since being here, seen that there's potential and there's a lot of opportunity for people. You could just stall for a while and then say there's two parts to our program, and the first is our rite of passage, so they understand that because, and it'll happen after the processional. I did most of my formal education in Inuvik, Sand School, and then the high school. Dion! They'll probably just laugh at that video, she's so crap. I did the teacher ed program for the NWT, did the first 2 years in the community and in Inuvik, and then I finished off my program in Whitehorse, Yukon, at the Yukon College. It's been very challenging. I think over the first year you have so much to learn yourself and a lot of things that you take for granted in the sense of how the school operates and the requirements to have a school run from the beginning of the year to the end, and knowing that there's many areas that you have to address to make your school operational and meet the requirements of the NWT. Mrs. Pascal, I just wanted to check with you. You're going to be ready for tonight? For tonight. We're going to do a dry run now, a rehearsal, and if you wanted to come down maybe, I don't know, or you're comfortable with just doing it by yourself? Like for tonight, without having to do practice. The biggest myth, I guess, that's really hard, and the biggest challenge is that people assume that because you're from the community, it's easier. Really, it's more challenging because people expect more from you. And a lot of the stuff that we take for granted in terms of, well, these kids come from these kind of homes, the parents are there behind them. In reality, it's not. And so we've had to really work at that. Even parents' own insight and attitude towards the education system is the biggest challenge, because I don't think in the history of our education in the NWT we've really made it flexible and doors open for them to feel a part of the system, to know that their input and their opinions are valued. And I think, and I hope that that's what we can offer here at Moose Kerr School. And it's taken 4 years to talk in these terms. You have to remember that 4 years ago, that was the biggest challenge. And I think it's safe to say now that we've achieved that goal and there's more parental input. Everybody's trying to get a little bit of information, so we kind of don't want it to be repeated too much. So maybe if you could tell us a little bit about Dion, something that, even one humorous story or one...
Oh my goodness.
Just something that's...
It's not humorous. I have nothing humorous to say about Dion.
You're okay.
And he's your last one.
And he's my last one. And I don't know what I'm doing walking him up, because it's going to be so hard for me to walk up with a straight face, I tell you.
That's okay.
Oh, yeah.
I think for me what really made me want to really push our kids is that we didn't see enough graduates happening. And there was something wrong within the system that if they're not going beyond grade 10 and 11, the dropout rate was starting to look pretty dismal in terms of why is that happening. Because their development years from kindergarten on seem to be solid, and something seemed to be missing for them. And I think over the years we've strived to really look at it came down to student support, parental support, and motivation. What is there at the end of this long journey for them? And I think we've changed that perspective. We put in place certain programs to get them on their way. And you know, today's graduation, 5 students, another set of 5, is a good insight to let our kids know that it's possible. Next year we have 11 potential grads, so the numbers are increasing. So something has, we've done something right to meet their needs.
So
planes, they're just delayed, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to Judy, and she said, well, Sarah and them are leaving right away, 2:30.
Oh, okay.
So since they're leaving right away, I guess I wouldn't have time to look for Anne then.
So we're just going to leave it with her? Never mind trying to get her across. Okay. Well, it was just a thought. I guess try to get her back over here.
Oh, she would have really liked it, eh?
Well, I think like most Aboriginal people, if you don't have a strong self-identity, and if you don't know who and where you come from, it's pretty hard to find or feel success in everything that you do. And if you don't stick with your roots, you're kind of a lost person out there. And I think within our NWT school programs, they push the languages.
How do we say Kerr?
What side? When the person got it.
How do you say moose?
Jin.
What's another one we can use? Mouse.
That's all.
How about in Inverleton? How do you say mouse?
She never taught us.
There was a mouse word.
Oh yeah, the
Well, what's another animal word we could use then?
Wolverine.
Do you guys know Wolverine in Inverleton? Bear? How do you say bear then?
I know.
So we have 3 words, right?
I've lived here in Aklavik all my life. I did up my education to here. It was from kindergarten to grade 10, and at that time, hostel was still up and running.
Moose, Duva, Dinjik, and Caribou. Batsai. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4.
So I had to move there and completed grade 12 in year 1988. I came back and worked here within the community, various jobs, and took on a role as a youth advisor here at the school with Derek Johnson, was the one that got me into the field.
It's between Trent and Brandy.
It's
Yep.
No helping.
There's no helping.
If you help, you lose the point now.
And we're just going to use 3 animals because in about, I don't know what
Curtis and Brandy.
Took on the role as the Aboriginal language teacher, as a Gwich'in language teacher. And from there, Velma came on as the principal and sort of steered me towards getting my certificate. So I took a year off and moved to Nunavut and went and took the Gwich'in language program there. And so now I'm back here within the school as a certified language instructor.
It is 3 to 2. Ready, Trent? Bear. Got you. 4. Joseph. And Curtis. Are we ready? Caribou. Batsai. So you have 5. How much is 5 in Inverleton? Adaw, Hikmal, Binwood, Sisamat, Dalamat. Dalamat, right?
Yeah.
And you guys have
4.
3.
We'll be right back with more of Moose Kerr School. Welcome back to SUAANGAN and more of Velma Illisiak's story.
She's originally from here, and there's that bond there of trust.
Hi there. I'm just checking on you for see how things are going. Okay. We're going to meet in Ruth's office about 3, and maybe you could come about 3:30. Okay. We'll see you then. Okay, bye.
And there's that honesty there, because we all work, we're very close together.
Okay, go pair up with somebody then. Tanya and Shannon needs a partner. Go up with her.
right at the beginning of the year. It's really stressed that we work as a team. And having her here, she's very open-minded. She's very easy to approach, and she's kind, very kind-hearted. And she's always there to encourage you, to set your goals high and to try to achieve them. And she's always there. She's a very friendly lady.
Well, whenever you come into any school, you have to go and see the principal. Principal, of course, is responsible for everyone that's in the school. So when I come into Musca, I take my shoes off and go into the office and say, I'm here, Velma. She's expecting me because usually we've discussed it or I've emailed her. And then I usually go and see whoever I'm seeing or do whatever I'm doing. And I check back with Velma about what's happened and how successful I've been before I leave.
If you're going to do something, do to the best of your ability. Don't do a half-hearted effort. And I think most of all is being considerate of others around you. In terms of getting something done, you always need teamwork. And I think when you come from a large family, that's part of it, right? Everybody has to work together to accomplish a goal. But as siblings, of course, there's always a rivalry and little things that happen. But I think the bottom line, though, is that support and respect for each other. The first year of my principalship, our students were having marks at the borderline, 50-51, and that was good enough for them. And I think over the years, we've really challenged them to stay away from that kind of an attitude, to really look within and know that they are capable, that they do have the intellect and integrity to push themselves, but somebody had to believe in them. And now, we were so proud of our first term's credits. We had over 500-something credits issued to our senior high, and we are seeing marks. I think there was only 2 students out of our 40 kids that had 56 and 57 as their lowest marks. So it's happening, and kids are starting to see that they're capable. So I think that is probably the biggest key to their success. The second thing is ownership of the school. They have to feel that the school belongs to them, that they have input, and take a personal ownership of the school. And if you see some of the cultural components of our school, students have had input with developing that, and so now there's self-pride in their school because they are a part of it. And if you're a part of something, you're less likely to destroy it. So I think that's a big thing for them.